Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Experts Eating Cake. I'm your host, Michelle Thomas. I'm a happiness expert and I'm the I'm the actual founder of the Happy Business Club and editor of the Happy Business Express. And what I like to do more than anything else in the world is get my friends on, new ones, old ones, people that I'm just getting to know, people that I've known for a very long time, get them on here talking about the things that they know best and eating some cake, because what is better than eating cake with friends? I can honestly say it's probably nothing on this planet. Anyway, today I have got such a treat for me, if not for you, an amazing person who has been there for me for such a long time and was there in my deepest, darkest hour of need. The one that's kicked everything off for me and everything that's been happening with the Happy Business Club, the OG herself, Karen. Hello.
I don't know if I can live up to that introduction.
Listen, I know you can live up to the introduction because I know you pretty damn well.
Okay.
And I only tell it as it is. I only say it from the heart because I can honestly say that back in the day when I needed somebody to help me up and hold me up, and I actually reached out to somebody because it's not something that I often do. You were the person, and I remember distinctly messaging you. Somebody gave me your number. I messaged you, and you got back to me at night, and I was like blown away because I didn't expect an answer so quickly. And you put me on hold and say, look, everything will be okay. I'll get in touch with you. We'll arrange something. And the rest, as they say, is history. We've been some really hard times together. It was amazing, exciting times together. And we're going to get down and dirty with a lot of this. But you are an anxiety expert. You have had an amazing background in energy work, in trauma work, and also all the personal stuff, the personal epiphanies that you've had, which we'll be talking about today. But if there was ever an expert in dealing with anxiety, raising awareness in anxiety, baggy boundaries, failures, attachment, all the stuff that you know has lodged itself in my mind, it's got to be you. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. I've not had cake in ages. And actually, we have a house full of cake, and I went out and bought myself cheesecake.
Because it's your favourite.
It's my favourite. It is my favourite. And I don't normally eat cake, so it's quite a special occasion.
Oh, well, I always eat cake, and it's still a special occasion. I have today. Oh, I brought my backup cake as well. So I've got 2 bits of cake. It is homemade chocolate and raspberry. It's one of my favorites that my hubby makes, and he usually knows if I'm doing one of these interviews. I'm sorry, my mouth's filling up with saliva. I'm dying to eat this cake, but he knows when it's happening. Yeah, he knows when it's happening. He's gonna bake something. It's not got to bake something, but he generally bakes something for me, so I am obliged to eat it. But I do like this cake. He made it with dark chocolate instead of white chocolate this time, but it's still pretty good. So, right, you got your cake ready?
I've got my cake, yeah. I don't know if I can multitask. I struggle.
Right. Well, let's just eat some cake. Here we go. Cheers.
Let's just start. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. We've broken the ice.
What flavour is it?
Raspberry.
Oh, I got raspberry too today.
Oh, I can't. It's either raspberry or blueberry. Strawberry. Unless it's fresh strawberries, I can't be able. No.
Do you ever make your own cheesecakes?
No, I don't make my own anything.
Oh, so you're a consumer, not a producer?
Absolutely. My partner,
like me,
I'm forever grateful for the food that she produces. Believe me, because I wouldn't eat otherwise.
Oh, bless you. Oh, I definitely would eat, even if my hubby didn't produce food. Oh my God, I'm dropping cake.
Oh. That's like not okay, really, is it?
No. Why is it the cake so different when it's warm than when it's cold?
Oh, you see, if I'm going to have something warm, like when you make those cornflake crispies.
Yeah.
Oh, warm the chocolate and you put them in and you mix it up. I don't need to wait for it to set.
Out of the bowl.
I've never grown up in that way. That's the inner child coming out on that one.
Have you ever done it with marshmallows in there as well?
No, but I've done it with golden syrup.
It's a right mess, isn't it?
Yeah, I made a mess, and you know, I was okay with it because I was in heaven.
Oh my God, and it's all sticky and you get it everywhere, and then you only realise later when you've got a full tummy.
Absolutely.
Exactly what it is that you've done.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a bit more. Here we go.
Okay. All right. Ready?
Yeah. I mean, where else can you get yourself on telly and eat cake and chat stuff and live the best life? Exactly. Right. Exactly. We are the world's best kept secret. Do you know
that? Yeah.
Right. I am so glad you've come on today, because I've been waiting ages to speak to you, and I know you've been priming yourself. You've been getting yourself ready for this.
What, for like years?
Yeah. Well, since I think since we've been friends. We didn't start off as friends, as I mentioned. We started off because I reached out to you for help, and over time we've worked together in various capacities. And one of the first things that we did that I absolutely loved was learning all about how to set up courses and things like that when we did your Let's Talk Anxiety course. Do you remember back in the olden days? And I got into Canva and did all the worksheets, and we did the videos and everything, and you did your really deep and in-depth insights into how everything married together and stuff. And I know that you've come a long way since those days. So tell me what it is that you're up to right now, what it is that you're aiming to do.
So interestingly, yeah, I was and still am, but just separating the was and the am at the moment. I was really invested and passionate about anxiety, because it was something that I realized that I lived with. There was this like epiphany moment. I was in my like mid to late 30s, and it was one of those moments I was like in the kitchen, and suddenly I felt like I'd really struggled for quite some time, really struggled, and I couldn't work out what it was. And I was having those feelings and those activated feelings in that moment. And I'd been like, you know, Dr. Google had been helping me out, and I'd been doing loads of research and things like that. And I'd researched anxiety, and there were loads of symptoms around that corresponded with that and that I really matched with. And suddenly I realized that I had lived and was living with a chronic level of anxiety. My background is, professional background is, I'm a nurse. I've worked in trauma for years. I've worked in education. I've taught. I've moved on. And I've worked in lots of sort of therapeutic environments. I've worked with Women's Aid. I did a very small stint for quality research on Paladin at the end of COVID, which is a stalking agency, but like, it was a small stint, but it was still really sort of enlightening in that way. But everything was around trauma. My entire life has been focused around learning about trauma, whether it be physiological, emotional, childhood, progression, development, all of those things. It's always been around that. But academically, it's always been intellectual and academic.
Yeah.
And then I realized that anxiety was something that I lived with. And even though I'd had all the experiences and I had all the symptoms of, and I'd had, you know, daily living with for decades, I never was able to pinpoint what it was. It was always something else. I don't know what it was. I wasn't ready to connect with it. I don't know what it was, but I wasn't ready to connect with it. And then I did, but it still took me, and I would easily say that it still took me a decade to recognize the block between understanding and having the awareness of my behavior, having awareness of my anxiety and awareness of everything around it, to having the wisdom around healing it, working with it, managing it. dealing with it, facing it, sitting with it, all of those things. But in between that, because I didn't understand that there was that connection, and that I was, managing it and working with it, and I was doing all these different therapies and things and investments and learning and education, I really was passionate about helping people with it. So obviously, we were talking about let's talk about anxiety, and we set that up, and we did a lot of work around that, and you were really supportive in that, and you were quite invested in supporting me around setting that up. But there got to a point in the last, I guess, a couple of years where I didn't feel in alignment with it, even with all my background, all my professional background, my training, my education, all of that.
And it is extensive.
Yeah, because I was always searching to try and find that answer, if you like, but I was always overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
Because that's what, I'm very good at. Overthinking, overcomplicating it. There's got right down to the sort of atom of what it is. And sort of recently I was able, and so what I did was, let's talk anxiety. I let it go because I didn't feel in alignment with it. I didn't feel congruent. I started to get very disconnected from what I was teaching to how I was feeling. So I didn't feel this, joining of it. So I left it aside. I kind of carried on. I was sailing, searching. I wasn't quite able to work it out. And then suddenly I hit a very different place in my life. I hit a very different awareness, and I recognized that bit that was missing between intellectually understanding and having the awareness. And when people talk about, that saying where when you know better, do better. And I understand that. And I used to feel really like a massive failure because I used to literally live with, I know better, I understand it. I have that awareness. I know what my meltdowns are. I know what I'm doing, but I don't understand it. Well, knowing better and being able to do better are two very different things.
Yeah.
In my experience, and everybody's different, but in my experience, knowing better and letting that come down and having the wisdom of being better.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is because it is contextual, and because everybody is different. Everybody can know the same thing, but they can apply it differently. And part of the understanding is understanding how it fits in with you. Everybody's got their own experiences. Everybody's got their own thoughts and beliefs and values, and even their own different types of trauma. And fitting what they know and customizing it so it actually matches. It's like finding the key to the keyhole. Finding that and creating that lock and unlocking it is actually probably one of the hardest things. And I understand that that's the journey that you've been on. So you've got this amazing amount of knowledge and experience and expertise in dealing with it with everybody else. But finally integrating it and understanding it into Karen and the way that Karen needs this was a whole different journey altogether. And I am so absolutely pleased that you've come back to that and you found the key and you found the hole, and we're turning that round. Because when I think back to Let's Talk Anxiety and the work that we did, and it was quite extensive work, there were a few little things that I have literally carried with me for all those years that I still talk, and we still talk about to this very day, which is stuff that needs to be put out there. Things like the baggy boundaries and things like the resourcing. I use that phrase, resourcing yourself. I got that from you. My favorite thing is putting a pin in it. I absolutely put a pin in it. I got that one from Karen. But yeah. I think now it's not just, I know we've got the little ticky on the bottom saying raising awareness around anxiety. It's not just about raising awareness about anxiety, because a lot of people do understand about anxiety. It's about how you take that knowledge and apply it to what you specifically need. How do we get around that? What are the practices that we need to put into place? What are the things that we need to be aware of? And how do we know that actually fits? And I think that's the thing that you're going to be, you are working on with yourself and with other people as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and anxiety, you know, it's not just a it's not just a one thing. It's a very broad spectrum. It's a sliding scale. We can have anxiety from childhood traumas. We can have anxiety from, you know, having experiences of workplaces where we're bullied that we carry on. We can have anxieties from coming from relationships that were very difficult, very toxic, you know. And we can have a very stable base, but these things can actually disrupt that, and we can develop anxiety from that if it's unmanaged. We can have anxieties from illnesses and being unwell. Physiological, I'm not just talking about I feel anxious because I'm unwell, but actual physiological things like your thyroid. We can have anxieties from autoimmune disease that is just a physiological reaction from that. We can have anxieties from being neurodivergent, like autism, ADHD, those kind of things. And those things, those kind of anxieties, or you can have a mismatch. We can, literally, there's layers of.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily, I mean, I would love to write a book, but I don't know what it looks like, because it's like 10 steps to, get rid of your anxiety, because it's not realistic. Many people, it's about understanding what your anxiety looks like, what it means to you, how it affects you, what your triggers are, managing those. My issue was I was very sort of intellectual. So I did this whole, right, what are my triggers? Well, my triggers are this, that, and the other. So I learned to avoid them because I didn't want to create anxiety. But because I left them unmanaged, only managed the triggers, I didn't manage the wounds that were underneath that, or I didn't have an awareness of dropping lower than the triggers, of going, it's there because of that, so let's look at and manage that. What happened was eventually my life got smaller and smaller and smaller. And every time I tried to sort of, I'll do something different, and I touched the sides, it became painful. Well, as you know, because you and I have been friends for a long time, I literally withdrew from everything because I couldn't.
Even me!
I know.
It's all right. I was waiting for you. Don't worry.
I know you did. You were amazing. You just like, I'm in the wings. I'm right here, and you were there. You were
my own thing,
Yeah, but it was a very painful experience, because anxiety isn't something you just emotionally feel. It's something that you physically feel as well. For some people, this isn't like, a sweeping statement or being generalized with everyone, but for some people, anxiety is a very, very physical thing. And obviously we are designed to avoid pain and move towards pleasure. And if pleasure is pajamas at 6 o'clock and your duvet and not seeing anyone, that can turn into 7 days a week. And if you're, and for some people, getting up on a morning, getting out to the car to go to work takes 100 demands. Getting to work, getting through work, getting home and doing whatever responsibilities are at home takes another 1,000 demands. So by the time you get to the end of the day, you've got nothing. Because you haven't got those resources. And I can honestly say I was living from a place of tolerance rather than resources. So let me just do my thing of put a pin in that for a moment.
Let's put a pin in that.
So resources are, I've worked on resources, as you know, for people for a long time. And I'm very happy to explain that, later in this video, what resources are. But everybody's resources are different around resilience. And resilience fluctuates. It fluctuates with the time of year. It fluctuates with external demands. It fluctuates with internal demands. Resilience fluctuates all the time. And resilience is a very individual thing. But one of the things that I have learned very recently around a core aspect of my resilience is acceptance, which links into tolerance. So if you just give me a moment, acceptance, I was somebody that would accept things that maybe weren't great for me. I'd accept them. I wouldn't accept things that were good for me, and I can explain why that was in a moment. So I'm very good at taking things that are not good.
Yeah.
And I'm very good at rejecting things that are good and healthy and
it seems nonsensical, but I know for a fact that a lot of people, especially when they've been through a lot of stuff, do actually react in that way.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that ends up forming a lot of the issues that they have with anxiety and this way of not being able to resource themselves because they block themselves from doing that.
Yeah. So learning recently around acceptance and learning that acceptance doesn't mean that you like it, the situation. If you take the situation, acceptance in that moment of this doesn't mean you like it, you want it, you've asked for it, you're enabling it, you're condoning it, that you're feeding into it, or that you cannot change it. It just means that this is the situation, because everything around emotions within that situation we put into that.
Yes.
And that is obviously our hippocampus, going back to the storeroom or the library of all our memories, bringing those forwards, creating the attachment, and therefore we invest in the emotion around it. That's why everyone's emotions are different into, one situation. Many of us can look at a situation and see things differently. And that depends on obviously our interpretation, our perception, which, obviously comes from our experiences. So when it comes to that kind of resilience and acceptance, learning that a situation, it is as it is.
Yes.
That and through this, I hope that people watching this will understand where I've come from, and how massive this is for me to sit there and go, it is as it is. This is a statement that is widely known, is widely said, but widely really connected to from the person saying it. And actually, for me, I've only just started saying it and feeling it, but it really is. And it's not arrogant. It's not coming from a place of ego. It's not coming from a place of game playing, or it is as it is, and I'm walking away. It's not. It's come from a place of empowerment. So now, when I would walk into a situation that would trigger my anxiety and would feel overwhelming, I see it, the situation, and I remove my emotions from that and my feelings from that and that reaction, and I just pause with it. This is the situation. And it has been the most empowering feeling, because it's given me that pause, and what I've stopped doing is overreacting. I can sit in a clinic room, I can sit in a nursing ward or an emergency situation, and I mean extreme emergency situations, and I'm on it. And I'm present and I'm there and I'm rolling it out. But you put me in a situation where, which is different from all of that, where it's just me and I've not got the armor of a work shield, or I haven't got knowledge, or I haven't got those things.
It's a vulnerable situation.
Yeah, where I become vulnerable. Yeah, exactly. I become vulnerable and become open. Then I can absolutely crumble. And this is the reason why I needed to take a break from doing Let's Talk Anxiety, because I recognized I wasn't congruent in it.
Yes.
I can tell you everything that you needed to hear. And that's actually what people wanted at the end of the day. But me, I didn't feel that I was in line with that. There was something missing. And that building that resilience and that acceptance. And once I learned what acceptance really was, it's allowed me to drop reaction. It's allowed me to think better, think clearer, and be more resourced. So what can I use right now in this situation that helps me? Who can I speak to in this situation that can help me? And you know what? It's okay to pause, and it's okay to say, do you know what? I'm going to come back to this in an hour's time. I just need to take myself away and have a think. Whereas I used to rush into everything because the anxiety was sort it out. So what I ended up doing was literally reducing all the resilience that I had, because I ran out, because I wasn't growing it. I wasn't feeding into the right side of me, and I wasn't feeding into the right resources. and I was increasing tolerance. Now, for me, tolerance is no boundaries. You can do what you want. I'm going to tolerate it. I don't, whatever. I'm too tired. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too this. I'm too that. And whatever it is, just whatever. Crack on. You do it, and I'll tolerate it. And I didn't see that there was an imbalance. So of course, I'm reducing my resilience. I'm increasing my tolerance. But this has got a lifespan too. Your tolerance, because you're not in alignment with, you're not authentic, you're not in alignment with yourself. So
and there's only so much that you can take before you actually physically break, which is where burnout comes in.
And that's what happened. It wasn't that long ago that I absolutely blew a good one. I was blowing, and then I blew an absolute good one. And that was when I was able to really sit down and work out, what the hell is anxiety? I've recognized I've lived with it for years. I've done my best. I've worked in therapy. I've worked with amazing people. But what is it that I'm missing? What is lacking in the connection? Why am I not getting it? Why am I still not in the same place? But why am I repeating the same patterns? Why is it such a slow burner of me learning? And obviously, anxiety comes in very different forms for people. There's so many different kind of areas of anxiety. Yeah. And then I realized that my biggest area was anxious attachment. I was somebody that had an attachment anxiety.
And tell us a little bit about the main types of anxiety, and end with that anxious attachment anxiety, and then tell us how that related to the story of how you got to the bottom of connecting all the dots and moving forward. Come on.
I need coffee. I need coffee for this.
We need to know. I want the people that are watching this to really get to grips with what we're talking about here, what kind of anxieties there are, how different all of them. But
you can be anxious about anything. You can be travel anxious, anticipation anxious. You can be health anxious. You can be end of the world anxious. You can be eco anxious. You can be
health anxious.
You are?
I have health anxiety.
Yeah. My son has that health anxiety. You literally can have anxiety over anything, and you don't necessarily have to have had an experience in that. It's just a weak spot that your anxiety attaches to, and it's projection, and it's just a projection of where the anxiety sits. But unmanaged, uncared for, that little nugget of anxiety gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, again, when you touch the sides and it gets painful, you bring your world in a little bit more. And then sometimes you do, but you bring it in a little bit more. So eventually one area of anxiety, and then you've got general anxiety that disorder.
Which is a bit of a bugger, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It is that one. And you've got COVID anxiety, which is, really massive.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting old anxiety. You can have anxiety around absolutely anything. And the one thing to recognize is you must not, in yourself, when you start to develop that awareness, which is the first step, don't dismiss it. Don't minimize it. Don't say, it's just, no one else has this. They've got bigger things going on in their life. Do not dismiss it. It's easy. We want to do that. We want to push it away. We want to make it smaller than it is. And you recognizing it doesn't make it massive. It doesn't make it any bigger than it is. But you've got to start recognizing, without minimizing it, without dismissing yourself, and actually taking yourself as being important, and your voice is important. And that is literally the first step, because it can be business anxiety. Look at imposter syndrome. Look at all of those things, which is, I want to be successful in my business, but I keep hitting this wall. What's that about? And some, not always about anxiety, but certainly if you recognize it's that, then own it,
Yeah.
acknowledge it, have the awareness, and then start looking at how to manage it.
And I think when you speak to people about anxiety and how it actually feels, because ultimately, yes, it's a physiological thing, it's a mental thing, it's an emotional thing, but physiologically, we generally feel it in very similar ways. Because physiologically we are pretty much built the same way. And I think sometimes acknowledging that you've got anxiety, or that anxiety is present there, and this whole thing that you were saying about it is as it is, and accepting that means that you can actually distance yourself from it. You can actually disconnect yourself from it so that you can go on to make bigger choices, regardless of whether this anxiety sits there or not. And one of the things that I do a lot of personally, when I'm doing all the thinking in my head, or when I'm speaking to people, is this thing of this is what it is. So whatever this anxiety is, whatever this niggle is, this thing that grows and grows, and it's like a loop that goes round and round and round, and it just has that downward impact on your body, whatever it is. If you can acknowledge that it's there, and separate yourself and let it be there whilst you go off and make choices in making your life better, then eventually it helps to contain it, it helps to shrink it, it helps to manage it, which means that you can then leverage that and do bigger and better things. And I think when it's unchecked and it's unmanaged, and people don't resource themselves, it literally goes the other way, and it ends up in a situation very much like you said. Your world becomes smaller, this anxiety becomes bigger, and you feel very, very trapped, and it doesn't feel like there's any way out. But there's plenty of ways out.
Yeah, and one of the things that can keep us trapped, and it's interesting you use that word then, and again, I'm not speaking on loudspeaker for anyone else but myself, but is shaming. And anxiety is, I could have done more, I should have been more in my career, I could have got that promotion, I should have gone for it, I should have done this, I could have that relationship, I should have done better today, I can be a better parent, I can be this, I can be that. We're very good at shaming ourselves, and there's lots of influential factors around that, but we won't go into that. But one of the daily practices that I now do is I do breathing exercises. I do lots of regulation, physiological and emotional regulation exercises, first thing on the morning, throughout the day, and then the last thing at night when I'm in bed. I go through a particular routine. But also within that, I do de-shaming exercises.
Ooh, I like this. Tell us a bit about that.
So de-shaming exercises, I will have reflection around things in the day. And I will reflect on them. Whereas before, I'd be like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. Why did I do that? And I'd literally be rocking, going, I'm such a bad person, and feeding into that internal narrative that I have, which is that I'm not good. I'm not a good person, that I'm this, I'm that, all of that narrative. That's not even my voice. It's feeding into a narrative that's there.
Yeah.
Shame is, I've done a lot of work around Brené Brown, which we all know Brené Brown.
Love Brené. Yeah.
I know. We do.
In fact, didn't you put me onto her?
I did.
All those years back. Yeah, there you go.
And I still rewatch some of those earlier videos that she's done, because you always learn something new, but you learn it, but sometimes we need to be reminded of it. Because remember, again, we can have, we can go into therapy, or we can go and do the work, and we can be working for months and months and years sometimes, but something can trigger us and we can go back to old habits.
Snakes and ladders.
No, it is, and it's not a linear process. And we can have years of being great, and then we can falter. But you know what? It's okay, because we'll generally find that we've gone into old habits, but it's been shorter. We've come out of it quicker. We've reflected better, and we can hold it better. But we mustn't go into shaming, because all shaming is designed to do is to suppress us back here and not allow growth. And actually, we are better with growth. We deserve to heal. We deserve to be better. We deserve to, be people who are, happier, where we can invest in much more in life and in our communities and ripple effect around us. Shaming keeps us anchored into something that's very, very painful. And often we don't need to be there.
Yeah.
So, and I know that shame, for whatever reason, is my thing. It's something that kind of, I can literally spill water and feel ashamed over it. It's like, it's an absolute nightmare. But I go through de-shaming exercises where I do the opposite. So I go through reflection, and if there is a cycle that starts to happen in my head in those thoughts,
so it's like the I should, and my God, I am,
and but I tend to now start to feel it in my stomach, where I start to feel really bad, and that's because I've gone from being so intellectual around, I could give you the textbook, all the models, all the psychology, all of this, all you want to hear. Now I have the wisdom.
Yes.
Oh, say now I have the wisdom. I'm developing and learning the wisdom. That was that was quite.
I get you. Yeah.
But I'm learning the wisdom, and it sits in there. And actually now I feel it, but I interrupt the cycle. So I go into affirmations. Do you know what? I did do that. I did spill that. I did whatever. I did say that. However, this is what I can do from now on, or this is how I can make it better, or this is what I did afterwards. So I look for the positive.
Yes.
I don't sit and dwell on the negative, because one thing we have to remember is our thoughts influence our physiology. So our thoughts influence our hormone release and our, internal body release. So if we're thinking good thoughts, we feel great. If we're thinking bad thoughts, we feel horrible.
Yes.
So it's okay to be realistic and in reflection, and it's okay to have that, do you know what, I really shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That really wasn't okay that I did that. Or it wasn't okay that person did that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel okay. So looking at those boundaries, you have boundaries with yourself, but you can have boundaries with other people. And it's about sitting with that and knowing that's okay and having that. But it's about not dwelling on it. So I know that I can do something wrong, but what am I going to do about it?
Well, I call it sitting in poopy soup.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Sitting in poopy soup. It's the thing. It's not worth it. Nobody wants to sit in shit all day. Least of all me. She takes a bite of her cheesecake.
I'm sorry. What are you doing? You're not eating.
I've eaten mine. I've only got crumbs left. Look.
Where did you put that in?
That's because you were talking and I was listening and I was doing the popcorn thing.
I'm chatting. I don't recognise anything else going on around me. That's what happened.
Yeah, I know, but I swear to God, you can feel the passion for this. It's absolutely brilliant. That's one of the amazing things about you, Karen. All the waffles. Love them.
What, for me, the biggest mistake people can make is giving up.
Yes.
I'm 45. I know I look young, and I want all the comments to say to me how young I look. I'm joking. But I am, I'm 45, and I can't tell you a part of my life when I wasn't feeling anxious or feeling anxiety. I can't tell you, I literally cannot tell you a part of that. And that's not that anyone else around me is doing anything wrong. It's not that people around me are doing anything to me. I've got, the most beautiful partner. I've got an amazing partner. I've got gorgeous, children. I just, it's just like, it's not anything to do with that. But I can't remember. I've always been successful in my career. I've been lucky enough to go out and, be a little creative or, be a little bit edgy and get what I want to do. But I've always done it with integrity. I've kind of like a cat fallen on my feet so many times. I don't understand when I'm so dysregulated and so chaotic on the inside.
Yes.
But not on the outside. And I know we were talking earlier about this. I'm going to do a bit of an overshare. I know, a bit of an overshare. So I was talking about sort of my main anxiety is attachment anxiety. And one of the things that I realized very, very recently, which was quite massive, around my attachment anxiety. And obviously we've got attachment anxiety, we've got avoidant anxiety, we've got secure attachment. Sorry, avoid. We've got anxious attachment, secure attachment, and avoidant attachment, and then we've got fluctuation. Now we can be anxious in one area and avoidant in another. We're very fluid in our attachment to things, to people, whatever. But I think one of the things that I realized recently, which hasn't even so, when I say attachment anxiety, we all think that's about relationships.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would say that is the truth. But because, as I've mentioned, my level of anxiety was superficially dealt with because I was in my head learning, reading, researching, thinking I'd got it managed. But I hadn't, because I hadn't developed the wisdom, hadn't let it, sat with things. What I didn't realize was attachment was across a lot of things.
Like what specifically?
Oh gosh, work, some friendships, but I couldn't go near them because I was the one that just felt different and wrong and too anxious and couldn't cope with, and so on and so forth. And it would even get to a point where going to the supermarket would become very difficult because of the sensory side. Too many lights, too much sound, too many choices, too much this, too much that, and everything just became, so as I said, my world got smaller. And then recently, through having dialogue with a DBT practitioner, because I'm working with a DBT practitioner at the moment, it's interesting how I really got to this place where I felt at some point in my life, I decided through self-protection, self-perseverance, that I was not going to be vulnerable anymore.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to open myself up anymore.
So you
fully
close yourself up.
Not fully closed.
Yeah.
Part open, part closed. Bags half packed. Because it was about feeling that being protective.
Yeah.
Also, that meant, and it's not just about bags half packed outside of myself, it was bags half packed inside of myself. So that self-worth, self-confidence, self-love, if you can't have it here, it's very difficult to genuinely give it outside of yourself in a very healthy, with all the boundaries and all the things that you need to take into any situation, any relationship. So there was a lot of that, recognizing that I somewhere made a decision sort of a long time ago that I wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to be fully invested in anything, because something that if I felt a connection with, if I felt happy about, if I felt excited about, was going to let me down in some way. So what was the point?
Yeah.
But it became so ingrained that it was second nature. It wasn't even a question. It was habitual, but to the point that I didn't even see it. So
you were effectively shutting things down before you even got the chance. You gave it a chance to experience it.
Yeah. And then what would happen, and what does happen, working on it, is that when happy comes, when I'm feeling my happies and I'm feeling safe, okay, settled, it's like flowing, it's moving, I'm going to sabotage it because it's not okay.
And I think the thing is, you're telling your story and you're sharing a lot of your deepest, darkest emotions, because it is part of the whole story and the whole raising of awareness around anxiety. Yeah. But I can guarantee that there will be people, because it is very much a human condition. It is we're so complicated as human beings that this story kind of covers a lot of ground, and there'll be nuggets in there that people will really, really relate to and connect with. And I think that's why it's really important that you, as an individual, with everything that you've gone through in your life, tell your story. And I know you're only opening yourself up to telling your story, but I think being on here and sharing a lot of what you've gone through, even if it's just the feelings, not necessarily the situations, will actually spark something in other people to actually make a difference in their own lives and start looking at the way that they deal with anxiety, and to know that there is hope out there. There is a lot that they can do. And there are people out there who genuinely want to help them go on that road and discover what it is that they can do to make their lives bigger, to make their lives better and less painful. I think that was one of the big things. It carries a lot of pain, and there's only so much pain that you can tolerate. But we were saying with the word tolerance before, it has a massive impact on you physiologically, in your relationships, and the whole way that your world is structured. Now, one of the things that I'm really excited about is the fact that you're slowly coming back to working on this and being more visible. And, there might be a bit more stop starting, but that's okay, because, we just want to see Karen. And when Karen turns up, and she's going to blow everybody away. What I'd like to do is make sure that anybody that's really connected with the things that you've spoken about get the opportunity to maybe look into this further. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to pop some of your details, maybe your Instagram, if anybody wants to follow Karen. And trust me when I say, when Karen gets on one and she does a big old rant, this woman is so knowledgeable about so many different things. There's going to be some absolute total golden nuggets in everything that she says every single time she opens her mouth. So it's definitely worth watching, definitely worth clicking on and giving her a follow. And when she comes, she will come with the gold. What I wanted to ask you is, what is the one thing that you've held on to? What's your golden nugget? The one thing that you've held on to all this time that's made the biggest thing? I would even say go so far as to say, what's the mantra?
What's the mantra?
Yeah, because I've got a funny feeling that would probably be the one thing that runs through your head.
Gosh, one thing that runs through my head as an overthinker, a million things run through my head.
Oh, go on.
I think the biggest thing for me, there's a saying that goes through my head a lot, which is diamonds are made under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows me, and it's a saying that allows me to settle and pause.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one thing that I would say that there's been the biggest turnaround for me is acceptance and boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And understanding what acceptance really actually is.
But those are two things that do take some work.
Mm-hmm.
And we can apply it very well over here, but we can struggle over here. For example, we can apply them very well at work, but we can struggle in conflict.
Yeah.
And whereas I was always very insular, not always, but for a long time, very insular, and I have to do it myself, and I'm going to work it out myself because I didn't know how to find the words. The best thing I ever did was go and get help.
Yes.
It really was, because it was somebody out of my loop, someone that didn't know how I worked, somebody that didn't speak to me in a way that I was used to and was challenged.
Yeah.
And it just allowed me to not feel the shame.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there was nothing to feel ashamed about. It was something that I put there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely is sitting there with, we deserve to be okay.
Of course we do.
And we can be, but also let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get rid of anxiety. Well, forget anxiety as in it's healthy anxiety. Forget that, because healthy anxiety is good anxiety. It's there for a reason. But chronic anxiety,
mm-hmm.
we can't, we can't always get rid of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is inbuilt and we're going to have it, but it's about learning to manage it, and we deserve to learn to manage it, and we can. And it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter whatever the situation, you absolutely bloody well can, and you deserve
it. Yes, you can.
And you'll be surprised at how much anxiety controls you, whereas you take that control back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this has been such a deep and meaningful conversation, and as it always is with you. I mean, I don't often get the chance to sit down and really delve into the human mind and all its inner workings, but I know that every single time that we sit down, we will always have a great conversation about this. But I want to completely change tack, and I want you to tell everybody about. I'm throwing you in at the deep end.
You are waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. This could be anything right now.
Anything. Right. I want you to tell everybody about. I don't even think you do this anymore. Ultra running. What the heck is ultra running? This always blew my mind. I just didn't get it. So tell everybody.
Yeah. So to manage my anxiety before, I started running. And I'm somebody that needs to practice a lot. I'm not a born athlete, so I need to constantly, I constantly need to train. Anyway, I started running, and I put out on Facebook, moved to Hickton. Because I'm obviously, if I've got a familiar trail, I'll stay on it. But I was getting bored. So anyways, I put out on Facebook, I've moved to Hickton Bridge, and I'm starting to run. I'm not great at it, but I need some new routes. Is there any females out there that would be obviously up for, running? Anyway, got tagged in to someone called Gilly Davison. And Gilly answered and just went, yeah, no worries. I'll meet you at St. Paul car park in Hickton. This is a bit of a plug actually for anyone around the area. So I said, yeah, no worries. Grabbed my neighbour because I was like, well, she could be a serial killer, let's face it. And I'm going to be running off through the road. So you are coming with me to protect me, So anyway, we went down to St. Paul car park, met up with her, and we did a 5K. Then it turned to a 10K. Then it turned to 4 or 5 of us. Then it turned to half marathons. And then it turned into a bit of a group thing. Anyway, I will get a bit mental. I'm not very good at doing little and often. So I went from 5 to 10 to half marathons. I ran the Sheffield half marathon, having overtrained. So I smashed it in 1 hour and 52, a half marathon. Got home from the half marathon. Instead of thinking I'll go and do a marathon with some breathing space and training space, I booked on to a 35 miler. So I did my first baby ultra marathon. I put my son actually, who ran some of it with me, which was amazing. And then I went from a 35 miler to a 50 miler, then to a 69. And then
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, and then the biggest one I've done is 100. I did the Lakeland 100, did a 105 miler.
How long does it take you to do that?
That was about 32 hours, and I fell asleep in a couple of fields. Let me tell you, I literally just dropped, had something to eat, quick drink, set my alarm, fell asleep there and then, got up, ran. That was. I'll
tell you what, Karen. I love you. I think you're one of the most intelligent people in the world, but I also think you're bloody mental.
But let me tell you, we started St. Paul running group from there, women's running group, and it's now 100 strong. And we've got 5 players right up to ultra marathons, and they're running every night of the week with different groups. And
you're not doing it anymore, though, are you?
No, I don't do it anymore, but you wouldn't be surprised to know, because I'm the biggest nerd and geek in life, and actually. Because I missed nursing when I stopped nursing because I was working in trauma, that I missed nursing. So I trained to be a sports massage and injury practitioner. So I still.
As well as your sacral, whatever thing it's called.
St. Paul. Yeah, St. Paul running group in Hickton. So I can't run with them because my knee's obviously shot. However, self-care wasn't my big thing back then. It is now. But I can't run with them, but I am their very personal sports massage and injury therapist. So yeah, so
Brilliant.
I still have a lot to do with them in that way. And I still do loads of talks for them and around care.
105 freaking miles. I wouldn't even consider doing that in a car. No.
Yeah. It did break me. That was the last big ultra that I did. It did break.
How many pairs of trainers did you go through?
Well, I change my trainers every 300 to 400 miles. If it's a trail trainer, if it's a road trainer, it's a bit less. However, the last two pairs, so the last training pair and the actual running pair, were exactly the same make, bought at the same time, so I didn't have to change design. So it's all very strategic.
Oh my God! My insides feel like jelly just thinking about it.
On the couch potato now, though, I totally love just lying on the couch watching Gogglebox now.
I bet you still run more than I do. I don't even run for the bus. Well, I don't run for the bus because I never get the bus, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Actually, I tell a lie. I'm not a runner in any way, shape, or form. As you know, I have got a wobbly knee, so that kind of like prevents me from doing it. That's my excuse anyway. But since I've been going back to the gym, doing a bit of exercise, I've been doing the fart licking stuff. You know, when you go on the
fart lick.
You do a bit of walking and then you run for a little bit, and then you do a bit of walking and you run for a little bit. So I can run for about 2 minutes, but by running I mean just like bouncing up and down a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
But I do it.
No, that's great. And to be fair, if you're on a treadmill and you incline it, you'll burn more calories walking fast than you will running it.
Yeah. But I think it's just one of those things like, well, yeah, actually, I can run. Even if it's 1 minute, I can run. But it's no more than that. Trust me, it's not more than that.
I'm getting into walking these days. I'm quite enjoying hill walking.
Oh, you're going to have to come round to ours and go up round the Airs. I've been twice already today. It's brilliant. And when it's a sunny day, there's like an embankment that takes you up to the reservoir at the top. And then I just lie there with my earpods, earpods in. And I just lie there catching the rays and listening to whatever inspirational podcast that I'm listening to.
Oh, you could come here and you can go up Pendle Hill, where the witches were.
Ooh.
Yeah, got you there.
I'm on my way.
Right.
I'm on my way.
Petals on.
Thank you so much, Karen. I really hope that somebody watches this and gets a lot out of your story. I think this story needs to be told again and again and again. And I know as we go through life, it'll get deeper and more and richer and have so many more beautiful outcomes that people can relate to and some lessons that they can take away with them as well. And I know that you're going to be spending a lot of time raising awareness. So thank you so much for coming. Bloody love you. And I shall see you very soon. We'll go catching witches. See you later. Oh my gosh. That was my beautiful, beautiful friend, Karen. We talked a lot about resilience. We talked a lot about tolerance and how it takes a lot of practice to get through life, building the kind of strength that you would need to actually face the challenges that you face. And it's one of my most favorite subjects, along with cake, along with happiness. And one of the things that I've done for this year is that I have set up, and I'm biting my nails about it, I've set up my Dream Builders and World Changers event. And what I want to do with this, it's an experience. I want people to come and actually learn the practices that they can then take away, build into their lives, and actually grow their businesses and feel amazing doing it. And I know lots of people that are on a mission to change the world. This is for them. If that's you, this is for you as well. I'm going to drop the details into the description. If you want to get your ticket, it's in Preston on the 1st of November. Join me. We're going to have a party. We're going to play some games and we're going to learn some amazing stuff. So hopefully I shall see you there. Bye.